presentation is being queued up. My name is Tanya Warnicki. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. I am the chair and professor of social entrepreneurship at Rollins College, right near Orlando, Florida. And I have two amazing co-speakers today for this session. The first is Josephine Balsac-Arroyo, who works in the Department of Social Entrepreneurship with me at Rollins College. And the second is Abby Croman, who is Program Director of Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Portland State University. So it's going to be a wonderful hour together, and thank you so much for taking time out of the craziness of the world around us so that we can all think together about Changemaker Campus pathways to social impact careers. Next slide, please. I'd like to start today with just taking a few moments to remind ourselves about virtual mindfulness. I have a quote here that speaks to me. It says, "The little things, the little moments, they aren't little." So many times through our days, the tiniest things happen and we don't pay it a second glance. We don't think about it at all. And then later, sometimes much later, we realize that it actually shaped our lives. And so even though we all know that there's a pandemic around, we all are stressed, there's a lot going on, we have a chance right here and right now to put all of that aside and spend time together and think about making tomorrow a better tomorrow. So if you can just take 30 seconds, we're just gonna have some quiet. Just close your eyes and center yourself in preparation for our session. Okay, thanks. I know sometimes that feels odd, but sometimes it's only when we're forced to do it that we actually take time for that virtual mindfulness. So thanks for sharing that experience with us. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to take one more moment for reflection. This is about something specific. There's no need to chat here. There's no need to speak out loud. But since the session is about pathways to social impact careers, I'd like each of you to take a couple of seconds and think about what was one pivotal experience that you had that shaped your social impact career path. And then if you can just hold that in your mind, towards the end of the session today, we'll have some open discussion and you'll be able to share those with us if you like. So just take a minute and grab hold of one experience in your mind. Thank you. Hopefully you have so many that it's hard to choose among them, and you'll probably have them circling around your head for the rest of the session today. Next slide, please. So today we're having the Rollins folks speak first about pathways to social impact careers. Rollins is a Changemaker campus. The way that the session will be organized as follows. I'll speak, my colleague Josie will speak about Rollins. After we conclude our portion, we'll open it up for about 5 minutes of clarification or Q&A that's specific to the Rollins presentation. You're welcome to use the chat function to convey your questions to us or to use the microphone that you have as you prefer. After we have a few minutes of clarification or questions and answers for the Rollins contingent, we're going to shift and hear from Abby. And then after she speaks, we'll have a similar short session of clarification questions for her. And then after that, we're going to open to a broader discussion. So I hope that's pretty clear for everyone, and we're excited to move forward with you now. Next slide, please. Okay, so Rollins College, as I mentioned before, we're right outside Orlando, Florida. It's a liberal arts college. It does have some graduate programs as well. The Department of Social Entrepreneurship, which is where both Josie and I work, we offer an undergraduate major and minor in social entrepreneurship. We have about 35 or 36 undergraduate majors at Rollins College, and social entrepreneurship is typically in the top 10 in terms of student numbers. So between our undergraduate major and minor, we have typically between 85 and 100 students per year that we are serving in our program. It's been a blessing to be able to offer a specialized social entrepreneurship major and minor. And so we've put a lot of time into project-based and experiential learning. We see these stages to creating pathways to social impact careers as really having 4 components. The first is awareness. The second is opportunities. The third is connecting the dots. And the fourth we call stepping into the future. So we'll take these one by one. Next. So awareness is critical because so many times we have the end result in mind, right? We want students, we want all of us to be channeling our passions, channeling our skills to create these amazing social impact careers and do good in the world. But finding those pathways is fairly unlikely if students are not aware of issues around the world, or they're not aware of all of the different possibilities that exist for making change and things like that. So in our department, we take several different steps to create that awareness. The picture you see on the slide there is from our global development poster session. This is from one of the core classes in both our major and minor. We host a poster session twice a year, and it's open to the entire campus and our local community as well. So for this project, there are about 40 students across 2 sections of the class. Each of them is researching a different developing country, and each is researching a different issue. The issues can be anything that a student is passionate about. It could be something health related, environment related, economy related, you know, anything at all. So, so they do this research, they're writing policy briefs, they learn how to create professional posters, and they are also analyzing different solutions, and they then display those posters in that open poster session. So that's one way that we raise awareness, not only among our students in the classes, but the campus community as a whole. All of our social entrepreneurship classes, you see SE on the slide there, and all of our classes utilize guest speakers. So we have a wide variety of guest speakers available because Orlando has a proliferation of social enterprises, both nonprofit, for-profit, and hybrid. So we're fortunate in that regard. And we also sometimes utilize virtual guest speakers using Zoom or WebEx or other sorts of technologies. And all of our classes also typically take site visits, either to social enterprises, local government, or small businesses. So again, they can be aware of both what the issues are and how to fix it. Next, please. So in terms of opportunities, we break these into 3 components: curricular, co-curricular, and community. And my colleague is going to describe some of these for you now. Next.
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. So I'm going to start talking about some of the different opportunities that we have, as Tanya said, in the classroom, also co-curricular across campus, and also within our community. So first and foremost, social venture is assignments that we conduct in our classrooms, whether that be in the introductory social entrepreneurship class, whether it be something rather minimal, all the way up into the capstone where students are actually developing business plans. And one of the things that we do, and I'm sure many different majors or curriculum across many of your schools conduct pitch competitions. Well, we like to incorporate the pitch competition into our classroom. And so specifically, one of the classes, Strategies for Changemakers, incorporates the Ideas for Good pitch competition, which is hosted by the Social Impact Hub, which you can see this as a think tank and also an incubator. And we do the pitch competition by taking the students through the process of human-centered design thinking. So we start with the problem, and we like to start with the problem by utilizing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I put the students into teams based on the goal that they're most passionate about. They learn deeper about the goal, identify specific targets within the goal. Then they go through and gather empathy by interviewing experts out in the community, also professors on campus, and also interviewing specific members of the community that they are trying to design for. They then go through synthesizing and brainstorming, prototyping. They go through the process of iteration by having a mentor session, which is conducted by the hub, and we usually see the students significantly pivot after all of that feedback. They then participate in semifinals, which is actually a campus-wide competition, and then from there they go to the finals. So I wanted to provide you examples of 4 different ideas that have evolved through this pitch competition. The first one is batteries. These were all social entrepreneurship majors and minors that came together initially to participate in the Holt Prize. So the Holt Prize, as many of you may know, is one of the biggest competitions, which brings together college and university students from around the globe to solve the world's most pressing issues through pitching ideas, ultimately to win a grand prize of $1 million. They were then able to develop this idea further through the Ideas for Good pitch competition, where they won first place. The prizes are all seed funding, starting at $1,500, $1,000, and then $750 for the third place. So Batteries is actually a project that was designed to expand access to renewable energy for families around the world by reclaiming batteries from waste. They were actually semi-finalist winners through the Holt Prize, and they ultimately have created their own social enterprise hybrid. So you can go check them out on batteries.org. The next 2 teams actually developed within the classroom. So aquaculture is a flotation garden device that removes excess nutrients from water. And then Teach Hope created a self-care box subscription service through a buy one, give one model to advance quality education in low-income schools while funding mental health programs. So both of these teams won first place, the $1,500 seed funding, and through the hub, one of the opportunities that they wanted to give to the first place winners was the ability to compete in the upcoming Fowler Global Social Innovation Challenge, which will be held here this summer virtually, of course, and it brings together students to be able to pitch their social ventures. And the last team, War on Waste, also known as WOW, won first place as well, and they created an initiative to compost food waste in schools and also educated restaurants. And one of the students used that project to be able to apply for the Millennial Fellowship, which was launched to convene and celebrate student leadership for social impact while creating a robust global network of undergraduate leaders advancing UN goals. So as you see, this one activity of a pitch competition opened up the doors and the path to many different opportunities for our students. Next slide, please. So another aspect is the community and the community engagement portion of many of our classes. This is a service learning pedagogy that pairs curriculum with the opportunities and needs of the community. With students participating in this kind of service learning and engaging with members of the outside community, students are obtaining transferable skills, which are preparing them for careers and lives as global citizens, which is one of the main missions of Rollins College. So one of the things that the students do with specific partners, Ideas for Us and Fleet Farming, is that they've created eco action projects. And those projects, they again learn about the goals. They plan, organize, fund, and engage in eco-action projects. They prepare marketing materials and different media for sharing with the public. They secure helpful metrics, and then they, of course, reflect on how this event could actually be scaled for our community partner. Students have also engaged with future generations, third graders through eighth graders at one of the local public schools. They have a Changemaker club, so the students engage with the process of human-centered design thinking. And not only do our students teach them, but those amazing young generations teach our students as well. And also we have a course, Law and Environmental Sustainability, where the students have actually partnered with local government, the city of Winter Park, which is where Rollins is, to help them develop a green procurement plan. They create a report, they do research, they do a presentation, which ultimately will hopefully become a policy that will be passed within our local government. Next slide. And then we also have various classes where students conduct different consulting projects with either for-profit companies, nonprofit. Sometimes they're local, sometimes they're all over the United States. And that's in our marketing class, in our financing class, in our ethical sourcing, which is also the supply chain class. We have a class that was dedicated specifically to being a change maker within organizations through social entrepreneurship. And then of course our final social entrepreneurship capstone. And so some of those projects were, measuring social impact through supporting sustainability certifications, positioning nonprofits for major capital campaigns of over $1 million. They develop marketing plans and campaigns for different organizations, and then promoting social entrepreneurship projects and ideas. And I'll turn it over back to Tanya.
Next, please. So our next phase is called Connecting the Dots. It's been amazing to have these awareness and opportunities so far, but we also recognize that many times, even though students are learning so much, they have a hard time vocalizing what they have learned and communicating and channeling that in a way that will be useful to them in terms of their internship applications, graduate school applications, and so forth. So we developed a handout called Market Your Experience. The Market Your Experience handout includes a summary of key takeaways from the social entrepreneurship major. We developed a list and explanation of transferable skills that the students have acquired through the different program activities and classwork they complete through the major. And it also includes sample resume action statements, again, tailored to experiences and skills acquired through the major. That way, no matter what a student is aiming to do in terms of their future career, internship, or graduate school, they're better equipped to understand what specific skills they learned and how they can apply them to the different opportunities that they're looking to pursue. We also collaborated with the Hub, as Josie mentioned, and with the Center for Career and Life Planning at Rollins to support adding a social impact tag on internships and jobs that students can search through our internal career services platform. So Rollins uses the Handshake B2B e-commerce platform for students to search for internships and jobs. And so the social impact tag was created in fall 2018. And since then, 256 different opportunities that all have some form of social impact focus, whether in social enterprises, nonprofits, or corporate social responsibilities, those have all been advertised on the Handshake platform. So that is another way of making it more visible how students can connect the dots from what they're learning in the classroom to what their aspirations may be. Next.
And so lastly, this awareness, the different opportunities, whether it be awareness through really determining an area of passion for students, connecting with different guest speakers or going on site visits, participating in these ideas for good pitch competitions, or creating a social venture idea or business plan, has allowed students to then step into the future either through internships. So many students, because of different community partners or connections they've made, have interned at Clean the World, a social enterprise, fleet farming, city government such as the city of Orlando, ESA Renewables, a solar company. They've created their own social enterprises. So I talked to you about batteries. Also, Love Your Neighbor Books is another social enterprise where a student started to have this idea, was able to create social venture plans in the classroom, and then ultimately upon graduation started this social enterprise. Also Yogavated, and they also have a website, so you can check them out. This student actually came to our program with this idea, and in one of the law classes, he was allowed to apply the different laws to this social venture that he wanted to create, and ultimately was able to launch this business. And then, of course, jobs, right? We want our students to be able to land great careers. Advent Health has a design lab, and one student of ours was working with the design lab, the innovation lab, throughout the courses and within our major, and now is working as a lead person in that design lab. So students are working at Gartner and FDIC, AmeriCorps, and so because of this awareness, these opportunities, connecting the dots, the students are now able to have these social impact careers that we all so desire.
Next, please.
Thank you.
So, so that concludes the Rollins portion of our session. We're going to take just a few minutes if you have a burning clarification question, something that you'd like to address, and then we'll move on because we have amazing content to learn from Abby. Any questions at this moment? Great. Well, you can keep thinking about those amazing questions. We'll have time in a little while to cover those more deeply. So now I'm really pleased to turn over the camera, as it will, so that Abby can talk to us about the amazing work that she's doing with her colleagues at Portland State University. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for bringing us together, and for Destin for helping us with tech today. And thanks to the 44 participants or so who are joining the conference. This is the first morning of the first digital Ashoka U conference. So applause to you all. I feel like we could operate as if we're not in a different reality than we were a month ago, but really we are. And I just want to recognize everybody's ability to be resilient through actual crisis. And thanks for coming to this session, which has relevance, I think, had relevance before and almost takes on a new relevance now. So I was taking that into mind as I was sort of reevaluating my slides, and just wanted to introduce myself briefly on a personal note. My name's Abby. I grew up in a really rural and underserved part of northeastern California. And I didn't know that I was going to go to college. And when I did, I didn't know that I would have a career path. And when I started thinking about a career path, I didn't know how I would get on one or where it would go to. It was all so abstract that the question that Tanya posed, actually, there aren't a million answers that come to mind for me when I think about sort of the catalytic moments that put me on a social impact career path. There's like a couple. And one of them is so significant to me. It's, you know, it's not significant necessarily in general, but it was like a role in a club where the leadership was stepping down and I offered to do it. And it was to help the University of California system develop a climate action plan. And it was so pivotal for me. It just revealed everything to me. It revealed to me like where there were jobs, where there were social problems, what jobs connected to what social problems, what a job even looked like in addressing social problems, how to join a conference call. There were so many levels that it revealed, this one like club opening that I joined, that I really can think about that moment. And so I think about that in my work too, like what student is having their pivotal moment when they're coming through Portland State University, and then what if they haven't had it yet at Portland State University, and what can the programs I work on do to spark that moment? So I'll try and introduce some work that Portland State University is doing that's way outside my realm of operating. I work in the School of Business on social innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives, so I have a very distinct role in the university. But Portland State University has been a Changemaker campus since 2012, partly because this kind of work is in the DNA of the university. So I'm going to try and describe this work of bringing students on a social impact career path at the university level, and also at the School of Business level, and then I'll describe the programs that I work on, which I can tell you about in a lot of detail. Destin, are you looking at the chat screen?
I was perhaps thinking maybe we can have you present this portion of the presentation, and then we can pivot back to the questions related to Rollins.
Great, I'll do that. Yeah, it's a little tough to look at the questions and present, so I'll just go back and I'll go back to the questions in a few minutes. Okay, so PSU is an urban campus. We have about 40,000 students. We're in the middle of the city of Portland, and we have a reputation as an access university in the state of Oregon. We have a reputation internationally as one of the most innovative schools and colleges in the world. So there's this kind of dissonance between how people see PSU. But when people arrive there, they're welcomed to a campus where there's the median age is 29. So people are there in the middle of their careers. They're there from all over the world. They're there often living off campus, and they're like usually just taking a major just to get a degree and advance in a career. So how do we start to shape things? One way is that at a university level, every senior is required to do a capstone project. And this is similar to what Josephine was describing with the service learning projects. The capstones, some of the unique elements of the capstones is that they are required of every senior. So as students are going through their undergrad academic path, they're always sort of leading towards this question of what will my capstone be? And the capstones, there's hundreds of them. They're usually designed by faculty in partnership with a community partner, a business, a nonprofit, a campaign, an organization, a government agency. And they pair the students in a real professional capacity. And it's a group of students. So there are leadership elements, there are service learning elements, there are academic elements, and there are consulting elements. They're collaborating with the faculty and community, so they're working in a really uniquely different relationship than they have had in a classroom experience before. And the program has been going on for 20 years. So it's one of these things that's like really become a part of PSU's culture. I'll just give you one example, and this is where this photo is from. This is, we've had 170 students working in a prison garden so far, where 40 inmates have graduated from this organic gardening course where students and former students are designing the course, and people who are in the prison, who are incarcerated, are participating in the course. So the students are graduating through Portland State, the inmates are graduating through the program in the prison garden, and the students are actually helping maintain the partnerships with the prisons. So there's like just many levels of professional work that's happening, and the skills and experiences that they're getting they're translatable across careers, but they're particularly impactful because they realize their capacity to enact change. So this is just one example of a capstone, but I think the capstone's interesting because it's required of every student. So it's a shared experience that thousands of students have every year. That Portland now sees Portland State University as so integrally connected with the community and not like a castle on a hill. And there's many, many programs actually that help shift that relationship that some cities may have with their universities. And this is just one example. We can go to the next one, Destin. So zooming in a little bit to the School of Business where I work, one professional opportunity that we have for students is called Be Impact. And Portland has, I think, one of the highest concentrations of B Corps in our city. There's a really lively and active B Corp community. The B Corps organize among themselves. There's a nonprofit organizing body in Portland that brings all the B Corps together. And the Be Impact initiative was proposed by students in the School of Business as an opportunity for them to practice high-level consulting. And so what they now do in a student-run accredited program is to become consultants to B Corps and prospective B Corps. And if anybody has questions about what is a B Corp or B Corporation, I can respond to that separately. But it's a designation for businesses to demonstrate their commitment and ability to maintain social and environmental responsibility. So the students in the Be Impact program are consulting the businesses and helping them actually through the certification process. The certification process is really rigorous to become a B Corp, and it takes a lot of time, energy, and research, and many aspiring B Corps don't have the resources to allocate to actually going through the B Corp certification process. So it's a really valuable product and project for the companies and for the aspiring B Corps themselves. They're really looking for this kind of support in Portland, and it positions the students not necessarily as the learners, which is a really interesting relationship for them to have and an identity for them to build, but as the advisors. And as they go through the work to help a company become B Corp certified, they themselves become real experts in the B Corp certification process. So again, these are like really multifaceted learning experiences where they're getting leadership skills, professional skills, and one of the most important for PSU is the ability as a student to immediately be serving the city. PSU's mission is let knowledge serve, and we don't wait until after they're done. So this is it's a service project that has so much mutual benefit that it's grown, and I think it's been around for 3 years only, and there's about 30 companies that have either been recertified or certified for the first time through the B Corp and B Impact program. So this is an example at the School of Business, and I can tell you, like, across schools and colleges at PSU, there's just a culture of these types of initiatives arising. They come from students, faculty, and staff. Another that I don't have a slide for, but I'll tell you about briefly is the Center for Public Interest Design in our School of Architecture, which is one of the only in the world, actually, Center for Public Interest Design, where architecture students and architecture faculty are identifying with community what challenges they're facing, co-designing solutions, and actually technically building them. One of them a couple of years ago was a mobile playground that was a series of trucks that could go out and, like, sort of fold out into open areas, like parking lots or parks that didn't have playgrounds. And they were co-designed. This was like a very community and human-centered design process, but they're learning building skills, human-centered design skills, leadership. They're working with policymakers, with zoning. And that's an example that pops up in the School of Architecture. There's in our engineering college, we have an invention boot camp that brings high school teens through an intensive invention process where they, over the course of a month, these are usually high school students who wouldn't otherwise have access to kind of high-end engineering camps. They'll come through a month-long intensive invention process where they're actually addressing a community problem. And there's a theme. Like one year it was rain. We have so much rain in Oregon. The theme was rain in Oregon, and students were challenged through a series of site visits and guest lecturers to understand what the challenges were related to rain and water systems. One of them, and we also had an issue with lead in our water recently. So one of them came up with a testing device that you could test water out of a drinking fountain, whether it was safe to drink or not. They're amazing. As you all know, as educators and students, there's no, we shouldn't be surprised that students are ready to be working on social impact in a professional capacity. It's really like our role in PSU to make a container for it, to make a place that it's safe for them to practice it without high risk, where a lot of our students don't have a safety net or a significant buffer. They don't have family money, or they don't have, a venture capital opportunity to participate in right out of college. So we're making a container where they can experiment and where they're supported and their risk is low, but the impact is high. It was tough for me to put together slides for this because there's so many examples at PSU, but we can go to the next one, which is my area. In the School of Business, we developed a certificate in social innovation and now a minor in social innovation and entrepreneurship that's open to students across campus. And we designed this with students, professionals, and with our faculty. So we had a lot of input. We continue to have input on now that this field of social innovation and entrepreneurship education is emerging, what do people need that they're not getting elsewhere? What can't you take in a MOOC? And what are you not able to do with another academic class in business model development, for example? So what we developed here is a online certificate. This enables students to participate who have families or careers or are actually around the world now. And what is the center of this certificate is the skills development and not necessarily the new ideas launch. And this mindset is reflective of Portland State University's ethos, that we're not after a new idea, but we are hoping that we can instill skills that students will use throughout their lives and careers in the emergencies and disasters that we will inevitably face that we don't know will exist, and in the challenges that we don't know we will have. So what we're trying to do is develop strengths, competencies, mindsets, and technical skills, but not necessarily one new idea in a student. That said, the way that we run the certificate is students actually come up with an idea that they work on throughout the course of four 4-credit classes. And they come up with their own idea in order to have this experience of actually coming up against barriers, having all of the personal and emotional experiences that you have when your idea doesn't necessarily work. It's not a theoretical idea or somebody else's idea that doesn't work. It's your idea. And so when you find out, you get all the way through the design thinking process and you start working on a business model and you realize that actually there's no source of effective revenue to fund this product, you sort of have to go back to the beginning. And again, this is a safe container, but it's a critical experience. We find that when students go through the steps of change making, when they're using their own ideas, there's so much more of a complex experience that happens. And so we also have a really significant leadership development component that's running throughout all 4 classes that asks students to be assessing their own story of change making, their history, what connects in their life to the work that they're doing and that they're interested in. They practice storytelling around their ideas that they're working on, and they practice actually looking at the impact that they want to achieve. So we have a whole class in measuring social impact and trying to understand, if we are trying to enact change, what is the change that we're trying to enact and how do you know? So I know there's a whole Ashoka U track also around measuring social impact. And we've been developing this, really in close coordination. It's not a coincidence. We actually have a chapter in Ashoka's new publication on measuring social impact. So these questions are all ripe for us. I will also just mention a few other ways that these pathways kind of connect to one another. And I mentioned the high school boot camp, and that is really intentional that we're working with local high schools. We do see this as a pathway, and we've identified with community partners, we're a part of a number of networks that look at entrepreneurial networks in our city and region and statewide, and have researched where students begin, where they get stuck, where they fall out, or where they're catalyzed, where they connect with businesses and other students, and where they become the entrepreneurs and change makers that become, the examples that we use in our classes. So through that research, we've developed a program called Invent Oregon. This is particularly an impact invention focused initiative, but it's a statewide program where students go through a high school competition, and then the winners from the high school competition come to regional competitions, and then come to a university competition, and there's funding involved, but mostly there's this amazing mentorship that happens, and teamwork and opportunities for students to participate in conferences and experiences that they wouldn't otherwise. So that's sort of one of that looks at the statewide level from high school through college. And then I've talked a lot about college into community. And I guess I would just come back to the let knowledge serve as our closing theme for my presentation, because it can be interpreted in so many ways, because it's so cross-disciplinary, but it really sticks to the underlying ethos of why we even have a university. And it helps us determine whether the programs that we're developing, the infinite opportunities that a university has to develop new initiatives, that's like one of our rubrics for how we evaluate what we develop here. And more and more we're able to come back to that as a part of our compass for whether this is the right direction for Portland State University. And I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of those questions as we start coming back to campus. PSU's decided to be closed for a summer term. This is strange times, but I think that we'll all be looking at this question, like, what are we going to be focusing on in the next 10 years? I think it's going to be change maker skills.
Thank you so much, Abby. That was great. I know that several questions have popped up. I haven't had a chance to see what they are. Shall we take a look?
Absolutely. I'm going to stop share just so we can see folks' faces and focus more on the questions now. And I think the first question was regarding the social impact tag in the career services database and about what criteria goes into a social impact tag.
Yeah, thanks for that. So basically, there were a couple of different criteria used. Some were, because as Josie mentioned earlier, the Social Impact Hub at Rollins College has quite a number of partners in the community that already are focused on social impact, regardless of what their organizational structure may be. So the first category for internships and positions that were kind of like pre-approved to basically always get the tag are from organizations that are already vetted partners of either of, say, like the Social Impact Hub. So that's probably the majority of tagged opportunities right now that's on the platform. But then there are, of course, many other opportunities, perhaps in other parts of the country or world, et cetera, or even in the local community that have not already collaborated with the hub. So what happens is the career office looks at a couple of things. First, the mission of the organization. Some organizations have clear focus on social impact in the mission, and you can see that like from pretty much everything they do. So they look at that if perhaps the entire organization is not social impact focused in some way, then they look at the actual job description itself. They reach out to the supervisors, managers, if necessary. So I would say that it is either existing partners with the hub, companies or organizations that have a clear emphasis on social impact and the foundational mission of what the organization is about, or an internship or job that has a specific stated focus of social or environmental impact in those ways. So granted, there's always opportunities to make those criteria even, like more elaborate as time passes, but those are the three basic criteria that are used at this time.
Awesome. And Tanya, on the same vein, folks are curious about how to put forward social entrepreneurship skills so they can be marketable if employers are not familiar with the concept.
Yeah, so we list about 17 different transferable skills on our handout. My handouts are all in my office, which I'm not able to go to because of our lockdown at the moment. However, they include a variety of things, including entrepreneurial thinking, data analysis, empathy, listening, adaptability, professionalism and work ethic, project management, ethical reasoning, so it includes a lot of different things. And then what we do is we have a blurb about each one, specifically almost like something that the student can know that they took away. So I had a couple written down, so I can share maybe one or two specific ones with you at this moment. So for example, for entrepreneurial thinking and action, we said, you generate ideas, create opportunities, and make things happen on purpose. By studying the process of creative thinking, you bring together resources in new ways, leading to innovations to solve commercial and social problems. Being able to think outside the box and break through barriers is a skill employers value. So that's an example of how we list a particular skill and then provide a blurb to provide more insight for like how a student actually acquired that skill, including some things that they could convey to a potential employer or grad school. I'll give one more. Perhaps empathy, I'll use. You carefully examine the communities and people you wish to impact through your work, understanding that context matters and that without asking, listening, and observing, your efforts may not have the intended impact. So those are just a couple of specific examples, but we list 17. And then the third aspect of the handout that I mentioned was sample resume action statement. So those are quite varied, but again, tailored specifically to what they did in our program. So for example, this ties to something Josie said a little bit ago, applied legal frameworks to different types of social ventures and initiatives. So that's like one example, but we basically go through the entire curriculum and we try to pull out sample resume action statements, and then we create a list for the handout.
Awesome. And just for to clarify a few other questions, are you able to share an example of the experience handout, maybe after the lockdown is over?
I'm sure that we can do that. Yeah.
Awesome. And Abby, I see a ping for you about more details about the certificate in social innovation. Are those available online, or are you able to follow up?
Yeah, there are pages about it on the PSU website. If I can actually put a link in here when I pause for a second. I'll put a link in the chat. But I'm just seeing this question: what change maker skills and how you teach them? Yeah, all of this stuff will be on the website, but also there's an email for Josh Young, and we can chat separately. I'm happy to about how which change maker skills we developed. I'm also doing another session at the Ashoka Youth Exchange, give a little plug for it, where we talk in depth about the change maker skills that we work on. And it's about measuring social impact and measuring impact around reaching those skills.
Awesome. And I just want to thank Matt for also sharing resources in our chat. The next question is about recognizing that we all have many community service learning and experiential offerings that bring our students together with community. How are folks thinking about this during physical distancing due to the pandemic? And offering all spring and summer courses suddenly online and preparing for plan B, assuming a second wave of COVID. If bringing together has been critical to programming, what strategies can be considered for the next 6 to 8 months?
So I can chime in here because I have 2 community engagement classes. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so 2 community engagement classes that all of a sudden, we were going to the Audubon Park School and connecting with those students. We had been attending the advisory board meetings of the sustainability committee with the city of Winter Park, and all of that obviously came to a halt. So imagining, we've been using a lot of different virtual platforms where the students are still communicating with city officials via WebEx or Zoom. For the Audubon Park School, because the students were teaching the younger students about their projects with the different goals. I've shared all of the PowerPoints that the students ended up having to record to be able to share those. And then they're also, because we had to now shift from direct service to indirect service, each student is making a user-friendly guide explaining their specific goal of choice, either through a video. Some are making TikTok videos. Some are doing using Canva, PowerPoint, whatever they're most comfortable with. I kind of let them be creative. I didn't want to stifle their creativity. So it's been challenging, but it really has been, how can I go from this direct approach to a more indirect approach? And of course, the most important aspect of this is connecting with the community partner, right? And talking to them, to seeing what their needs are. I had one partner that we were working with that basically said, we don't have capacity right now. we're trying to figure out how we're even going to stay afloat throughout this, crisis and challenging time. So it really did just go back to me and the community partner having a really detailed conversation as to like, okay, where do we go from here? What can we do, if anything? And if not, right, honor that, and then maybe think about another community partner that does need a lot of help during these times. So that's me, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people that maybe have some great ideas that they're implementing.
I would love it if in the next 2 minutes we could just open that question to the group. I don't think anybody has, certainly not the three of us having any authority on this topic.
And Tanya,
Not to say Rollins doesn't have a really effective approach.
No, agree, 100%.
Just in terms of timing, in case the session does close, if Tanya and Josephine can also maybe put some follow-up contact information in the chat, I'm sure folks would love to continue this conversation. But I just want to follow up Abby's point and open it up to the group if anyone has any thoughts. Awesome. So just keeping an eye on time, if there are no last thoughts, I just want to open it up to our speakers one last time if there are any final comments before we close out and move to our keynote address.
I'll just say this has been an amazing way to kick this conference off. I'm really inspired and feeling excited, and like Abby, I know that we probably could have had a session that lasted double so that we could hear all of the amazing things that all of you are doing, because I'm sure all of you have alternate pathways for developing social impact careers. So I really do hope that we can all stay in touch and continue this conversation after the session.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for organizing this, and for Josephine's amazing presentation, for Destin for coordinating. We appreciate you guys.